Alrighty, let's go ahead and start another test review for the next test that I'm sure you all are going to do super awesome on, and I'm going to be so proud of y'all, and I'm going to get all choked up thinking, what great students I have, yay! Alright, let's look at this and see what we got. So let's start off with number 1. Now, that front page is all divided up into the idea that there's different types of problems, and what I'm trying to get y'all to do is recognize patterns. So let's look at number 1. Excuse me. Okay, so in number problems you have two types of statements. One that says sum of two numbers, and another one that says difference of two numbers. I mean, look for those keywords. And obviously, when you see this one, sum of two numbers, then you automatically should be putting like x plus y. And then you'll see after sum of two numbers is, and that means equals. Difference of two numbers, x minus y, is equals. Okay, so now what do you do from there? Well, okay, let's just assume that I'm going to do this to y'all, and you got to go with this. In the review, it says 10 less than twice the first number. Okay, less than means minus. 10, which comes before the less than, is after the minus because you're taking 10 away from this. Twice is a 2. The first number is x, so 2x, and there's your setup. On this one, it said 12 less than twice the second. So 12 less than twice second. And so I'm doing basically the same thing, minus 12. Twice is 2, but the second number is y, so it's 2y. Can this go into the calculator as is? No. You have to move this over. And you have to move this over. And you're going to say like 1 minus 2x gives you negative 1x plus the 1y equals, this is now gone, negative 10. And over here, when I move this one over, I've got negative 1 minus 2. So I've got 1x. Negative 1 minus 2 is negative 3. So this is where you got to be careful because a lot of y'all were making that little mistake right there. This is now gone, equals negative 12. So now this can easily go into the calculator, and I can do the whole RREF 2 by 3 and say negative 1, 1, negative 10, 1, negative 3, negative 12. Come up with the answer and go from there. And the answer for this one is... Okay, so the answer is 21 and 11. So if you have a calculator where you can practice it at home, hopefully those are the answers you're coming up with. Oh my, let's look at perimeter. Alright, I'm going to back this up a little bit. Whoops, that is not what I meant by back it up. Okay, number 2 is going to be a perimeter problem. Perimeter problems start off by saying 2L plus 2W equals. It's always going to do that. There's two lengths, two widths that make up a rectangle. That's kind of a duh. Now, what else is that going to tell you? Okay, well, it says the perimeter is equal to 356. So I'll set equal to 356. That'll be your first statement. The next statement starts off saying length is, which means L equals. And then you just kind of pay attention. Like in this one, it says 7 more than twice the width. Okay, and if it had said less than, I would put minus. But this right here means I'm putting a plus, and I'm saying 7. And if it had said less than, I would have put a minus 7. Twice the width is just 2W. Because twice again is this, and that's W, so 2W. Now, can I type it in as is? No, I have to move this over and say basically 1L minus 2W, because if it's positive, when you move over, it becomes negative. And then now I can plug it in as, with the RREF, 2, 2, 356, 1, negative 2, and 7. Press enter, get my answer, so on and so forth. And when I type that into the calculator, I get an answer of 121, and this is in meters, so this is 121 meters and 57 meters. Now, if you give me these meters, like the measurements that they are, that's an extra point. If you don't put it in, that's fine, you'll still get the right answer, okay? Anyways, there you go for that. Moving on to number 3, which is a money problem. Okay, money problems are fairly simple. You have two equations. Basically, you're saying x plus y equals something, x plus y equals something else. So you're going to have like both of them being pluses. Now, what you're doing here is you're saying, okay, it's pretty straightforward. Just look at the problems that you see on the thing and then just type them in. So like if you look at number 3, it says 3 tables and 12 chairs equals $629.25. 4 tables, 14 chairs equals $789.10. And then all you got to do is type that in. It's already set up. It's ready to go. It's an RREF form already. It's in our matrix form. You just got to type in the numbers and then come up with your answers. So in this one, you get X is equal to $109.95 and Y is equal to $24.95. So tables are $109.95 and chairs are $24.95. And there you go. Notice if you put the little dollar amounts, that would get you an extra point also on those. Alright, next is a mixture problems. Mixture problems always have a total, which is always X plus Y equals any amount. So keep in mind it should be X plus Y equals a total. Then you have a mixed equation, which is always going to be basically the same thing. It's just that you're putting some numbers in front of the X, the Y, and the total. So for example, on number 4, it said dried raisins, and it says you make 36 pounds of this. So it's X plus Y equals 36. And then you have that it's, and notice here how I'm writing this. I'm writing this already, like rewriting the second one, but with spaces. Look at the numbers in order. 275, 475, 371, bam, type them in, press enter, you've got your answer. And that's it. So what is the answer for this one? Let's find out. So according to the calculator, I get an answer of 18.72 pounds. And Y is equal to 17.28 pounds. Now I did put on the answers or the notes when we did this on the quiz to round your answer to the nearest whole number. So that means this would have been 19 pounds. I have no idea what's going on there. And this would have been 17 pounds because rounding off, this one should round up, this one should round down. And there you go. And that's about it for mixture. Just remember, again, these are things like this right here you can add to the note card and hopefully, and whatever else you need to write in there to help you remember where to put numbers and things like that. Okay? Alright, motion problems. Okay, motion problems are always X plus Y, X minus Y. So what you see here is like your basic formula. You're going to put the X plus Y in parentheses and the X minus Y in parentheses. Anyways, I'll get that right sooner or later. And go from there. Now, the way this works is time goes in front, distance goes in back. So if you look at the number 5, it talks about Emma can row 45 kilometers downstream 3 hours, or she can row 27 kilometers upstream in the same amount of time. Find her speed and all that. Okay, so you start going this, you say the X plus Y, she can go 45, and the X minus Y. Okay, so the distance here is 45. And then you can see that it takes her 3 hours to do that. And then the distance here is 27 when she goes upstream. And it takes the same amount of time. Cannot write that into the calculator as is. You got to make sure you distribute. So you're saying 3x plus 3y equals 45. 3x minus 3y equals 27. And when you're done with that, you should have an answer of x is equal to 12 kilometers per hour. And y is equal to 3 kilometers per hour. Okay, finally for number 6, that's a 3 equation, 3 unknown. It's pretty straightforward. If you kind of read it, you can tell, okay, asparagus is the X, broccoli is the Y, cabbage is the Z. And then you go, oh, there's 50 pounds of asparagus, there's 25 pounds of broccoli, there's 60 pounds of cabbage, and they made $155. This is like just a very long money problem. They sold 65 pounds of asparagus. They sold another 25 pounds of broccoli. They sold 60 pounds of cabbage. And they made $185. And then they sold 45 pounds of asparagus. And 30 pounds of broccoli. And 50 pounds of cabbage. And they made $145. And then you just type that into the calculator. Make sure that you remember it is a 3 by 4. And kind of go from there, and then you should have your answer. So on this one, when you do get the answer, it does tell you like 2, 1, and 1/2. Obviously, you should be able to tell that's $2 for the X, $1 for the Y, and half is 50 cents. Hopefully you would know that. But I mean, if you gave it to me as a half, that's fine. But you know, maybe you hopefully remember 50 cents, and there you go. And that's it for that. So those are simply all you got to do for that front page. Just stick to the patterns and kind of realize what you're doing from there. Now let's talk about the ones on the back. Okay, so you see this long problem. It really shouldn't be hard. Just first off, try to decide what are the two things I need to talk about, because I'm only going to have y'all compare two things. Now, in normal business models, we would obviously look at more things, but we're only looking at two things here. And you should be able to tell that in this case, you've got this chocolate cake. Why am I saying that's Y? X. Pumpkin spice cake is Y. And if you go down to here, it says how many of each should you make. So that should kind of tell you. Now, what do you do from there? Well, if you take this right here, the $25 and $35, that's going to become part of your Part D. All right? Your Part D is basically there saying that there's a profit to be made. How much do you make on the X? How much do you make on the Y? X is chocolate, so you make $25 on the chocolate. Y is pumpkin spice, so you make $35 on the pumpkin spice. That's all you got to do. And notice it was just those dollar amounts. Now, if just in case that, so you don't get confused, cross them out once you've used them. Then how do I come up with Part A? Well, Part A, you should always start off, there's your basic constraints. X greater than equal to 0. Those are your basics. Those are always there. Then you're going to have an X plus a Y less than some number. Now, if you go back and you look at here, you can see that they're telling you there's 2 hours, 3 hours for the pumpkin. Chocolate is 2, pumpkin is 3, and there's 360 hours. Notice hours, hours, hours. 3 things that all match up, put them together. So that means I would go, okay, 2 for the chocolate, 3 for the Y, 360 hours. Notice hours, hours, and hours, all together. And then you're going to have 2 limit functions. Okay, what I mean by limit functions is you'll see something that says there's a limit. So if you go back to the problem, you can see here it says there's a limit of 120 chocolate and 100 pumpkin. So then that's what you would do here and say you got a limit of 120 and 100 for those. Now you might want to make note that your X, the one with the X, this will be that will be a vertical line. The Y one will be a horizontal line, and this one right here is a diagonal line, which I should also be drawn inside in a second. Also, don't forget, you need to find your x-intercept and y-intercept. And how do you do those? You basically make sure you divide the answer by the x, the answer by the y, and that will give you your x and y-intercepts, which should give you that right there, 180 and 120. Okay, so you kind of make sure of that, kind of go from there, you should be just fine. All right, now let's look at the next part. So I want to graph this, and I'm going to say, okay, chocolate's down here, pumpkins going up and down here. How do I choose the numbers? Well, again, this is why we find the x and y intercepts. Okay, if you look at this, there's 16 of these, and if I go by 10s is not going to work. I run out of space. So then maybe I try 20s, and I go by 20s. And so I'm making sure I can tell you. Now, maybe I tell you what to go by on this. I honestly don't know, but we'll see. Depends on my mood. All right, so you've got this right here. Okay, and you draw your lines. Whoa, we're going too fast. Okay, so those lines are the x greater than or equal to 0, y greater than 0. That's the orange lines. Now, the diagonal line, you had an x-intercept of 180 and a y-intercept of 120. So that's going to be joining right there. Then for your vertical line, it was x less than or equal to 120. That's that one right there. The horizontal line was less than 100. That's that one right there. Now, if you were in my 2nd or 5th period class, this is where I messed up. I told you that answer was 40. Okay, I'll do this point, and there's your solution area. Somebody that wanted a Superman symbol. Okay, so you had 0, 0. And by the way, this graph is part B. And then you had 100, 0, or 0, 100, sorry. Then you had 120. Actually, I'm going to erase that part. Hold up. You had, dang nab, I'm just doing the wrong thing. Okay, you had 120, 0. That's this point right here. And then you have this point right here, which is 120, 40. Now, this one right here, and here's where I'm a little bit off. it looks like it's crossing at 120 or 4100. But if you double check 4100, and what I mean by double check, I mean put them back into this equation right here, you're going to figure out that if you put the 40 here and the 100 here, you're going to get 380, and you're not supposed to be able to get over 360. Okay, so what do you have to do? Okay, so if you see this one's drawn a little bit better, and you can see that one's actually a little bit more like a half. So halfway between 20 and 40, right here, would be 30. So this is actually at 30/100, and if you plug that back into that diagonal line equation, you'll get that one will equal 360. So those are the two numbers I should be trying. Can't try 0, 0, can't try 0, 100, can't try 120 because 30/100 is bigger than 0/100. 120/0 is 120/40 is bigger than 120/0. So I'm going to test those two. When I test those two, I'm basically plugging the 30/100 and 120/40 into the x and y from D and see which one gives me the biggest answer. And according to this, I'll get the $4,400. Now, what that means is at 120 chocolate cakes and 40 pumpkin cakes, the max profit is $4,400. If you give me this sentence, you will get an extra 5 points. So, and that's pretty much all you need to do. And you can go through the same thing on number 8, and I'll go through it fairly quickly. I'm going to say the gold one is 8, and the the silver one is Y, and I'm not sure why that's crossed out like that. But then I'm going to come over here and say D is equal to X plus Y. Notice here that I'm starting off like that. How much is it for the X? It's $10 for the gold pin. It's $18 for the silver pin, so that's where I get that. X plus Y greater than or equal to 0. And then I'm going to have X plus Y less than or equal to something. And then you can see minutes, minutes, minutes. 10 minutes, 18 minutes. I'm sorry, 15 minutes. Way to read well there. And 600 minutes. And there's that equation. And then your constraints, your limits, are X less than or equal to 30 and Y less than or equal to 20. Then you can get your X and Y intercepts by dividing, and there you go. I'm trying to finish this up a little bit quicker because I'm running a little short on time, or I don't want to go too long. I've already gone long enough. Okay, so then I'm going to go by 5s here. I can see the graph like this, and I ended up at one location, and then, excuse me, 0, 0, 0, 20, 30, 20, or 30, 0, and 30, 20. Obviously, it's going to be that one, 30, 20, so I can go from there and just type it in, and I get 660, so my max is, wow, I can't read that. My max is that I've got, say, 30 gold pins and 20 silver pins will give me a max of $660. And anyways, that's about it, and that's all I got for today. Hopefully y'all are ready for the test with this, and I will see y'all tomorrow. Y'all take care.